Positive consistency. The man saw the old crusty foreman make his way across the job site like an Old West gunfighter moving across a dusty street. A Copenhagen ring so deeply embedded in his back pocket could probably be seen from the next city over. The wiry mustache always concealed the expression on his lips. His crew had seen him exit the trailer, and it was always a mystery what version of the boss they would get. They were on day 5 of 6, straight 12-hour days, not exactly in the mood to be told what else they were doing wrong. The old man stopped a few yards away and looked over the work completed that day. He spit in the dirt to his right, that kind of spit when a baseball manager sees his pitcher walk a batter on 4 straight pitches. Foreman unleashed an expletive-laced tirade ranging from the poor quality of the work to the slow progress, to the lack of cognitive ability of his crew. Of course, the completely exhausted crew sat silent, knowing there was nothing to be gained in responding. At the conclusion of the berating, they headed to their trucks to go home for the day. The man sat down in his truck, turning the AC on high, breathing in a deep sigh of exhaustion. Cool air blasted his sweaty hair as he scrolled his favorite news app on his iPhone 16. The same cycle of stories appeared on the screen. Everyone was dying. One of the political parties was probably to blame. The whole world was in debt. The weather was going to destroy everything. He opened his bank app to glimpse the status of his checking account. Low, just like last week. The mortgage would be really tight again, just like last month. Closing his phone, confused why he'd expected a more positive message from the news app when it had yet to ever provide such a thing. He turned on the radio and pulled out of the parking lot to head home for the few hours of rest he might get before doing it all again the next day. A 2-hour commute later, he pulled into his driveway. Taking a deep breath, remembering what his mentor had taught him, he left his boots and his job in the garage and entered his home to the place that really mattered. His wife, hair frazzled, clothes covered in the remnants of the kids' lunch, greeted him with a smile, a look of sincere sorrow as she saw the fatigue in his face. Giving him a kiss on the cheek, she said, "Go shower." He returned a beaming smile, not necessarily because he felt like it, but because that is what his wife was worthy of. Suddenly, 3 Nerf darts went soaring past his head, a near kill shot, and the sound of cackling young boys echoed off the nearby hallway. Ducking to his left, he used his wife as a human shield as he moved laterally across the entryway. His wife let out a playful, "Help! Help! He's kidnapped me!" 3 boys, bandanas around their heads, stormed the entryway, unleashing the fury of 3 very poorly aimed Nerf guns. The majority of the darts struck the hostage, and the rest clattered uselessly to the ground. The man let out a roar as the triumphant kidnapper, as he released his wife and moved to swoop as many of the boys as he could get his hands on. The laughter filled the house as one by one the kidnapper took down the heroes. As the boys moved to recover their wasted darts, the man said, "Let me shower real quick, and then I expect to learn something new tonight." He ran to his doorway, shutting the door just in time as multiple darts ricocheted off the door. Returning to the scene of the crime a short time later, his wife hollered, "Time for dinner!" The unexpected man walked to the dinner table as 3 boys drew down on him again. Holding up a closed fist, he said, "Boys, after dinner, listen to your mother." "Aw, man," echoed simultaneously from all 3 boys as they shuffled to the dinner table. As they all sat down, the man and his wife once again made eye contact. The fatigue in his eyes, the stress on his mind, the weight of the world on his shoulders, only visible to the woman who knew him best, remained where they belonged. These were his burdens to carry. The people who sat before him would be shielded from the storms of this life, and it would be his honor to do it. Following the prayer for their meal, he looked up to see all 3 boys straining to think, their food untouched. They knew what was coming. A smirk curling out the side of his mouth, the man asked, "All right, who wants to go first? One new thing you learned today." The youngest of the boys quickly responded, "I don't know." A grinning mother immediately looked to the man, knowing what was coming next. The same response she'd heard dozens of times. Wagging a finger, the man cut the boy off. Not in my house, young man. What do we say? The young boy sheepishly looked down and corrected himself. Sorry. Let me think about it. The dinner finished, and the family cleared the table and did the dishes together. Once the boys had retrieved their pajamas, they made their way to the couch. The man made his way to the couch, exhaustion clearly taking its toll, but a smile came over his face when looking down at his family as they sat to read their nightly story. He spun the tale in a way that left all three boys begging for just one more chapter. The mom shooed them off to their beds, where the man went in to pray over them one at a time. As he exited the final room, his wife was waiting in the hallway as she whispered, "We need to get you to bed." The man released a short breath before that sly smile came across his face again as he responded, "Nice try. How was your day, beautiful girl?" They shared a conversation as they brushed their teeth and got ready for bed. The exhausted man crawled into bed, but before succumbing to sleep, prayed the prayer of a husband over his wife. The next morning he arrived at the job site, fresh off the berating from the shift before. Fresh off the reminder there wasn't enough money. Fresh off, the world was imploding. As he stepped out of his truck, putting his hard hat and vest on, his feet gently shifting the compacted dirt below them, one of the crew members stepped out of his truck a few feet away and sarcastically quipped, "Ready for another fun-filled day at Hell on Earth?" Allowing a slight but genuine smile to creep along the left side of his mouth, the man responded, "That I am," offering no further explanation. As the two men began walking towards the job site, the second man, despair dripping off his words, asked, "See the news last night?" "I did," came the simple response. Confused, the second man inquired, "Crazy, isn't it? What do you think's going to happen?" The man pondered for a moment, before looking up to meet the second man's eyes, before he said with a sheepish smile, "I'm not sure, but I know I can't control it, and I know the situation doesn't care about me or those entrusted to me." Small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. John C. Maxwell. We, as men, have the ability to drive the culture and temperature of our home and workplace. Let's be abundantly clear. We cannot control the people at either location, but we most certainly can set the tone. The world has told us when we receive respect, we give it. When we feel loved, we show it. We've been taught it is acceptable to ride the emotional wave in whichever direction the moment is taking us. Where does that end? It will be shockingly brutal work and potentially an exhausting process to shift this narrative. But imagine a world where the men stood up and said, "No, the buck stops with me." The days of allowing our feelings to drive attitude and interactions at work and home needs to end. Before getting into some steps to help drive this new thought process, let's discuss a very basic, tangible step we can take today without delay. Be positively consistent. We've all been around that person who is always late, be on time, is always negative. Choose to be positive or silent, is hit and miss. If you say you're going to be there, show up. Allows the work product of others to determine their day or work product. You set the standard. Allows the emotions of the wife to dictate their mood. You set the mood. Allows the obedience of their children to determine their demeanor. Cool, calm, collected. Always. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. James 1, 2 through 4. Stop looking at other people and do what you know is right. Let's talk about a few deeper strategies that will take longer to change, but are even more important. Number 1, control what you can. At face value, this sounds so simple. Upon deeper reflection, there's a chance we realize a great deal of our anger is driven by a desire for control. We believe our wife should speak to us a certain way. When she doesn't, anger. We believe our kids should behave a certain way. When they don't, anger. We believe the opposing political party should believe the way we do. When they don't, anger. We believe our coworkers should be on time or do more work. When they don't, anger. We believe our boss should make better decisions. When they don't, anger. We believe drivers on the road should drive better. When they don't, anger. To be clear, it's not at all that there's no virtue in the things listed above. In fact, if we can lovingly guide people through these difficult moments, this is good. What is not good is when we allow these moments to dictate us. We allow them to shift our love for people, our patience we show them, or our work productivity. Number 2, get out of your feelings. We live in a world driven by emotion. We are taught from an early age to do what makes you happy, or we all deserve some me time. The harsh reality is that's not biblical. The world may tell us to focus on ourselves. It may also tell us to please people. The truth is, when we enter into eternity, we will not answer to any of the people we encountered in this life. We will answer to Christ for the life we lived. While there's no way to know exactly what that interaction is going to look like, it's hard to envision a scene where Christ is commending us for allowing ourselves to be driven by the emotion and desires this world promotes. The much higher likelihood would be Christ commending us for letting people see the love of Jesus through us in each interaction. Celebrating us for representing God in our work ethic, our patience in our home, and serving others, and placing the needs of ourselves last. The Bible does not say, pursue your feelings. In fact, it says to work unto the Lord. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. Colossians 3:23 through 24. Number 3, the man sets the tone of the house. Whether single or married, healthy marriage or failing, kids or none, the tone of the home is set by the man. This might not be a popular opinion in today's culture, but this is biblical. So many men of this generation have taken a backseat to leading their family well due to being too drained by the hardships of the world, the fatigue of work, or the unhealthy relationship with their spouse. It is easier to submit to all three instead of recognizing the situation for what it is. Satan's attempt to remove the man from the headship of the house. God's intention was for men to be the head of the house, to bring stability, perspective, and safety. Men were not placed in this position to be served, but to lead with servant leadership by placing the needs of his own family above his own, always. Leading through service does not have a limit. Nowhere in the Bible does it say if a man dies to himself and leads well for 30 days, a year, or even 10 years, that it is then his family's turn to serve him. His home, his family, they've been entrusted to him by the Lord. It is his job to give them his very best every day until eternity. Choosing to be positively consistent does not mean we need to be ecstatic and joyful all the time. It means we need to always show up for our family in a positive way. We must be the anchor or the rock. We must be the voice of calm and reason. We must not keep track of what our wife has or hasn't done, but instead show up with our absolute best day in and day out. In eternity, we answer to God, not to her. We must be that coworker that shows up on time. We must be the worker that does not keep track of how much work the other members of our team does, but simply remembers we work for the Lord. If we want to be where the buck stops, we must choose to be positively consistent every day, without excuse.